For the first time in my life, I wasn't being watched. Among the endless flow of workers and travelers, Jorik and I were just two more faces in the crowd, two tired figures in stained work coveralls, invisible enough to be ignored, but freedom came with a price I hadn't expected. Without the structure of the manufactorum, no shifts, no quotas, no overseers, I was left alone with something terrifying. Choice. Where to go, what to do, how to live. I'd spent 17 years being told what I was, when to move, when to sleep. And now, suddenly, I had to decide those things myself. Jorik, he handled it better. He remembered a time before the chains. He said Verdania was our goal, a world untouched by industry, where people still lived by their own hands. But finding passage there was harder than we ever imagined. Every ship in the port demanded documentation. Identity papers, imperial credit transfers, things we didn't have. We weren't citizens, we weren't even people on paper, just escaped property, with no names beyond our old service numbers. We hid in the maintenance corridors, between the terminals. That's where Jorik said it. Words that changed everything. We need to find work, he told me. Honest work. Something that pays. We can't run forever. I asked him, what kind of work can escaped slaves even do at a spaceport? He looked at me with quiet defiance. The same kind free people do, because that's what we are now. It sounded simple, but freedom isn't simple. Freedom is a skill, one you have to learn. Soft, ambient hum returns. Cargo loading sounds in the distance. We took odd jobs loading and unloading cargo. Small tasks no one bothered to verify. The pay was meager. A few, imperial credits at a time. But it was enough for food scraps and a place to hide. We slept in forgotten storage bays and ate leftovers from vendor stalls. It was dirty, exhausting, uncertain, but it was ours. Every bruise, every ache, every hunger pang. Those things belonged to us, not to the Imperium. And yet beneath the small victories, there was always a shadow. We knew it couldn't last. Escaped slaves were valuable assets, and the Imperium never forgot what belonged to it. On the 7th day, they found us. I was working a shift on loading platform 12 when I saw them. 3 figures in gray security uniforms, scanning data slates, moving with the slow precision of predators. They were looking for someone. They were looking for us. I found Jorik and gave him the signal, a small hand motion we'd invented for moments just like this. No words, no panic, just movement. We dropped everything and disappeared into the lower service tunnels. But it was too late. They'd anticipated our escape routes. Every corridor, every emergency hatch either blocked. We crouched in a dark maintenance alcove, the sound of boots echoing through the metal halls. Jorik whispered, they know how we think. Kes, they understand escaped slaves better than we understand freedom. So what now? I asked. We make a choice they won't expect. His voice was steady. We stop running, and we start fighting. Fighting? I whispered. We don't have weapons, Jorik. We don't have anything. He reached into his coverall and pulled out a small folded piece of metal, the one he'd shown me days before. We can still create. And that's something they'll never control. Soft metallic clinking. Tools echo faintly. I didn't understand what he meant until I saw his hands move. Precise. Efficient, the same motions he once used to assemble Imperial weapons. Only now, he was building something else. He scavenged parts and wire, transceivers, bits of scrap metal, and began to assemble a crude transmitter. When I realized what it was, my breath caught. Jorik, what are you doing? He looked up. I'm giving them a choice. The same one they gave us, and only this time they'll have to hear it. And with that, he activated the device. Low static. Then a voice crackles through the intercom. Citizens of the Imperium, he said, his voice echoing through every terminal and platform. You are listening to the voice of a slave. Not an escaped one and not a former one, but a human being. A person who was stolen and forced to build weapons in the dark beneath your cities. Around us, alarms began to sound. Security forces moved closer. But Jorik's voice kept going. Calm, unwavering, growing stronger. For 30 years, I built the tools of war that took other lives, other freedoms, all because I was told it served the Emperor's glory, but I have remembered something the Imperium Forgot. We are not components in a machine. We are not property. We are people. Pause. Silence builds tension. And for the first time, I realized he wasn't trying to survive anymore. He was trying to awaken something buried deep inside all of us. The signal spread faster than any of us could have imagined. Within minutes, Jorik's voice was echoing through every corner of the port, the same ports where we were once invisible, ignored, unseen, now carried his words across every loudspeaker, every comm terminal, every feed. People stopped what they were doing, dock hands, merchants, even security officers froze in place, listening. You built your cities on the backs of the forgotten, Jorik's voice said. You worship an emperor who no longer watches. You call us heretics for remembering what it means to be free. He was trembling, but his voice didn't show it. Every word burned through the static like a flare, in the void. Then the first shot rang out, sharp echo. Then silence. Security had found our position. Jorik didn't even flinch. He just kept broadcasting. To those still in the factories, in the dark, and if you can hear me, know this, you are not alone. You are more than what they made you. That's when I saw them. Shadows moving at the edge of the corridor. Armed. Precise. The unmistakable rhythm of Imperial enforcers, I shouted. Jorik, we have to move! But he didn't stop, he just looked at me and smiled. If I stop now, Kess, this was for nothing. The shot hit him before I could pull him away. One clean blast, center of the chest. The sound echoed through the corridor and through the open comms. And for a heartbeat, the entire port went silent. Then chaos dock alarms triggered. Workers screamed. Cargo loaders shut down. Everyone was moving, shouting, running. I dragged Jorik's body into the shadows. His blood was warm, too warm. He was still alive, barely. You have to finish it, he whispered. They'll cut the signal. Soon. I didn't understand what he meant until I saw the transmitter still blinking beside him. The signal was fading, the frequency breaking apart. If it stopped, everything he risked would vanish. So I did what I'd never done before. I took his place. I spoke. My name is Kess, I said, my voice shaking. I was born a worker. I was told my purpose was obedience. But Jorik showed me something else. That purpose isn't given to us, we make it. Even through the static, I could hear movement outside, boots closing in, the scrape of metal armor, but the words wouldn't stop coming. If anyone out there still believes the Emperor sees us, look again, because what's watching you now is yourself. Pause. Static swells, then fades to silence. The transmission cut out just as the door burst open. They didn't kill me. They stunned me, dragged me away, locked me in a cell that smelled like rust and burned oil. Days passed, or maybe weeks, I couldn't tell, and then they came for me. Footsteps echo. A metal door creaks open. 3 officers in black armor, faces hidden behind mirrored visors. No insignia. No names, only one of them spoke. You are guilty of rebellion, unauthorized transmission, and heresy against the Imperium. Do you understand these charges? I said nothing. He leaned closer. You're lucky, Kess. Normally we'd have you executed, but your little message caused trouble. He paused, almost like he didn't believe it himself. There were uprisings. In the lower decks, workers refusing orders and tire. Manufacturers went silent overnight. He tilted his head. We need to understand why. That's when I realized they didn't bring me here to punish me. They brought me here to study. Me, you will assist us, the officer said. You will help identify others infected with your ideas. Infected, that's what they called it. Like freedom was a disease. I didn't answer. They dragged me to a chair, strapped my arms, and activated a machine that hummed like a dying engine, a truth extractor, an interrogation device. But instead of fear, all I felt was clarity. Jorik's words still echoed in my mind. We are not components in a machine. I understood now. Even here, even under the lights, I had something they couldn't touch. Memory. The machine hummed louder, and the officer asked, "Who helped you? Who built the transmitter?" I smiled through the pain. "You did," I whispered. "Every one of you." He froze. "Every overseer, every soldier, every hand that held a whip or a brand. You built him. You built me." "You built this." The machine crackled, then overloaded. Sparks flew across the room, and in that blinding flash I realized something had gone very, very wrong. For them. Metal groaned. Alarms began to rise again. The truth extractor wasn't designed for people who had nothing left to confess. It overloaded, short-circuiting the chamber's systems. The restraints unlocked. The lights dimmed. And for the second time in my life, I was free, but this time I wasn't running. Music fades, low, haunting tone lingers. When I woke, the world was red. Alarms still screamed somewhere far above. But down here, in the interrogation deck, everything was silent. Dead. The air smelled like ozone and burned circuitry. The machine that tried to break me lay shattered, a blackened husk of metal and glass. I didn't know how long I'd been unconscious. Minutes, hours, maybe longer. All I knew was I was alive. Soft footsteps on metal, echo fades. I staggered through the dark corridor, past flickering lights and twisted steel. The facility had gone into lockdown. No guards, no orders. Just the quiet, mechanical hum of a system trying to reboot itself. Somewhere deep in that silence, I realized something impossible. The signal, Yorick's signal, hadn't died. It was faint, fractured, buried beneath emergency frequencies. But it was still there, a whisper in the static. "We are not components. In a machine." I stopped walking. The words weren't in my head. They were real, repeating softly from the broken terminals around me. Fragments of Yorick's last broadcast, looping endlessly through the failing comm systems. He was still speaking, even in death, and somehow, others were listening. Background, rises, faint echoes of voices and static. Found them 2 levels down, hidden in an old maintenance bay that reeked of fuel and dust. A small group of workers huddled around a damaged transmitter, its surface glowing faintly with residual power. They looked at me like I was a ghost. Maybe I was. One of them, a young woman with soot-stained hands, whispered, "You're her, aren't you?" The voice from the transmission. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't a leader. I wasn't even sure I was free. But when she said those words, something inside me shifted, because if they believed I was, then maybe I had to be. Soft breath, steady tone returns. There were 7 of them, all escapees from different manufactorums. They'd been hiding since the signal first went out, waiting, listening, hoping someone would come, and now somehow, I had. I told them what happened. About Yorick, about the interrogation, about how the system had collapsed. They listened in silence, then one of them asked, "What do we do now?" That question hung in the air like smoke. It was the same one that haunted me since the day I escaped. What does freedom mean? When the world is still a cage? I looked at the transmitter, still sputtering with Yorick's words, and I realized the answer. "We keep it alive," I said. His voice. His message. We send it to every deck, every worker, every forgotten soul still trapped in the dark. They hesitated. It was suicide. Every transmission risked detection, retaliation, death. But then that same young woman smiled. The first real smile I'd seen in weeks. "Then let's die for something that matters." Soft ambient music builds. Hopeful yet grim. We spent hours scavenging parts, rewiring broken comm arrays, piecing together fragments of old Imperial tech. It was ugly, unstable, but it worked. When the transmitter lit up, I felt it again, the pulse of rebellion humming beneath the static. I began to speak. "If you can hear me, you are not forgotten. Your labor, your pain. The Imperium calls it sacrifice, but it's not. It's theft. Every breath you've taken, every hour you've given to the machine, it belongs to you. Take it back." Across the broken city, the signal spread. I could feel it, not through the comms, but through the air itself. People stirring. Machines faltering. Systems failing. The Imperium was built on obedience. And now that obedience was cracking. Mechanical alarms faintly trigger in background. Within hours, security patrols were redeployed. Broadcast jammers came online, but it didn't matter anymore. The words were already out, and once an idea escapes, you can't chain it again. We moved constantly, one hidden bay to another, sending fragments of the message through whatever working channel we could find. Each time, more people responded, Not all with words, some with silence, some with small acts of defiance. Machines left broken. Quotas left unfilled. Tools laid down mid-shift. It wasn't much, but it was beginning. Low heartbeat rhythm builds. Slow, steady. Then one day a new signal reached us, encrypted, unknown source. When we decoded it, my blood ran cold. To the one they call Kess, it said, "You are not alone. We are listening. We are everywhere, no signature. No trace, just coordinates, and deep beneath the city. In the heart of the old industrial underhive. The same place I once worked. The same place where all of this began." Pause. Distant rumble. Part of me wanted to ignore it. It could have been a trap. Probably was, but another part, the part that remembered Jorik's voice, knew what I had to do. I looked at my crew. 7 people, exhausted, scared, but burning with something stronger than fear. "If this is real," I said, "then we're not the only ones fighting. And if it's not," I smiled, "then we'll give them a reason to remember us." Music swells. Metallic echoes fade into silence. So we went, down into the dark again, back to the depths we once escaped. Not as slaves this time, but as the spark that would set the machine on fire, cut to black, a single faint heartbeat. The deeper we went, the older the city became. Metal gave way to rust. Lights flickered, then vanished altogether. Only the echo of our footsteps remained, swallowed by the dark. They called this place the Underhive, but even that was a lie. It wasn't a hive anymore. It was a grave. We followed the coordinates from the signal, deeper and deeper, until the air itself felt heavy, thick with dust and memory. Every wall was marked with faded symbols, scratched messages, numbers that had no meaning anymore, but one phrase kept reappearing, painted in ash, written in blood. "The cowards have ascended." At first I thought it was a warning. Later, I realized it was a truth. Soft metallic groan, the echo of shifting machinery. We found the entrance at the base of a collapsed elevator shaft. The metal doors were fused shut, but behind them, faint light pulsed like a heartbeat. We forced it open. What waited beyond didn't belong to this world. Rows of pods, hundreds of them, filled the chamber, each one large enough to hold a person. Most were dark, cracked, empty. But some still glowed faintly with the dull red light of life support systems struggling to stay alive. And in the center, a console still active, covered in dust and static flicker. It greeted us with a line of text that repeated over and over, pleading across the screen. "The cowards have ascended. The Emperor is not watching. We are watching. Ourselves." Low hum intensifies, like whispers in the dark. No one spoke. We didn't need to. We felt what this was. These weren't prison pods, they were escape chambers. Whoever had been here before us, they hadn't died. They'd left. They'd abandoned this world. Voice suddenly crackled through the console speaker, weak, distorted, barely human. "If you are hearing this, the ascension failed. We thought we could leave. That salvation waited above. We were wrong. The Emperor never watched. The machine only watched itself." Static drowned out the rest. We stared at the rows of empty pods. It hit us in the Imperium's great engineers, overseers, priests. They hadn't been taken by faith or by duty. They'd fled, left their slaves behind to die under the weight of their lies. That's what ascension meant. Not divinity, not enlightenment, just escape. Silence, slow heartbeat, pulse returns. One of my crew whispered, "So what now?" They left, and we're all that's left. I walked up to the console. My reflection flickered across the cracked screen. And in that flicker, for the first time, I saw something. Not fear, not exhaustion, but resolve. Then we build what they ran from. I opened the access panel. Inside was an old transmitter, still functional, still linked to the surface relay network. We rewired it with the fragments we carried, splicing together the last of our power cells. When it came online, I didn't hesitate. "This is Kess," I said, my voice echoing across the static. "If you can hear me, listen well. The ones who ruled you, they're gone. They fled their own creation, their own sins, and left us here to die in their shadow. But the shadow isn't the end, it's the beginning. Behind me, The others were silent, listening, every eye fixed on the glowing screen, every heart waiting. You've been told to worship an emperor who never watched you. You've been told your suffering is holy, but holiness without compassion is just cruelty wearing a crown. So, if the cowards have ascended, I paused, letting the silence stretch. Then it's time for the brave to rise. Soft crescendo. Faint hum of power building. We broadcasted the message across every surviving channel, every abandoned relay, every industrial node, every forgotten satellite orbiting dead skies. And as it spread, something strange began to happen. The lights, the ones that had flickered and died long ago, began to return. Not all at once, but one by one. Small glimmers of power, like stars reappearing through clouds. We weren't alone anymore. All across the planet, others were awakening, and workers, outcasts, forgotten souls who had heard the voice and remembered what it meant to be alive. The Imperium's silence had been broken, for the first time in centuries. The machine listened back. Long pause, faint mechanical breathing in background. That night, I stood beneath the surface sky, a sky no longer hidden by smoke or industry, just dark and wide and endless. And for the first time, I didn't look up for salvation. I looked around because the truth wasn't above us. It was never divine. It was human. The Emperor wasn't watching. He never had been. But we were watching ourselves, and maybe that was enough. Music fades. Final line spoken quietly, almost like a prayer. The cowards have ascended. Let the brave inherit the dark.